Okay, hi, my name is Julie Shava, and today I'm going to be giving my civic engagement speech one, because the last time you couldn't hear me, so hopefully you can hear me this time. Okay, when people hear social issues, they tend to think of all the bigger issues in the world, like poverty, mental illness, healthcare, but they're way too focused on all these big issues to even notice the small. What they aren't realizing is that social issues can truly be personal. For me, a big social issue I experienced personally was the issue of grief through losing a parent. When my mom died, my world didn't just change, it felt like it completely stopped. I can't say that one day everything was normal and the next day it wasn't, because nothing was ever normal with her. Every single day was a new story. My mom was a struggling alcoholic. I grew up around it my entire life, and there were so many mornings after she died that I would wake up and completely forget anything happened. What surprised me the most, honestly, wasn't even just the loss, it was how alone it made me feel. As an 8-year-old girl, I didn't know what to do. Kids don't just go to school and learn how to grieve, so how was I supposed to handle it? People never knew what to say, or they thought they did, but it was never enough, or it was never the right thing. Nothing could ever fill this void. But all of a sudden, we were just expected to go back to school, go back to normal, complete homework, engage with our friends, and just pretend like we were genuinely okay. This is exactly why grief isn't just personal. It's most importantly a social issue. I know I'm not the only one and not the only kid who goes through this struggle. So many kids lose a parent or even just close family members. I lost my mom and my brother. But yet there's such little support built into our lives. Mental health resources are truly limited, especially for kids and younger adults. Grief is often misunderstood. You don't know how it feels until you're genuinely going through it yourself. So many people think that they understand, but they never will until you're in the shoes. There will never be a true timeline as to how long it takes to get over it, if you ever really even get over it. Grief affects how we as children learn, how we connect with others, and it's a huge aspect of our social life. So many people feeling these extreme losses tend to isolate themselves and hide from the problem. This issue turns into not something just short term or medium term, you could say, but it turns into a long term issue. This can cause anxiety, depression, and again, just all around isolation. So many people go through this silently, and that's what I did. It becomes a lot more than just individual pain. It becomes something society absolutely has to address. So I guess the major question is, what do we do? First, this is something that absolutely needs to start being talked about. Grief can absolutely not become something that people are embarrassed about or hide, because that's exactly how I felt for most of my life. Schools need to have better resources for these issues and places where students can process what they're going through. The mental state of children needs to be prioritized. As a child, I was constantly pulled into offices in the middle of my school day to talk to counselors about this, pulled away in front of my entire classroom of my friends. And I was so embarrassed. It made me want to hide these problems more. And my friends would come up to me and ask, "What happened? Why did you leave the classroom? Why do you always have to leave the classroom once or twice a week?" What was I supposed to say? I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to tell them, and no one was teaching me any of these answers I was struggling with. Another thing that definitely would have benefited me more was how people handle hearing about the grief and what you're going through. When I talked about it, I received so much pity and people just all around feeling sorry for me. It made me feel so stupid and like a burden to everyone I was talking about. I felt like I was constantly trauma dumping when I was genuinely just trying to open up about my feelings. People need to respond with open ears and not just sugarcoat everything, because that is how my entire childhood was. The morning after my mom died, I went to school the next day because I honestly could not tell you. I find it fascinating myself. I think it was almost expected for me as a child, so it didn't hit me as hard as everyone else would think. I remember my teachers finding me outside at recess in the morning, pulling me inside and just hugging me silently. I have never been so low. I was okay outside at recess, believe it or not. They pulled me away and made me feel feelings I didn't want to feel. And these things just need to be noticed and need to be addressed. As hard as it could be, it is something that is so important because it ruined such a major part of my childhood and affected me growing up all my years until recently when I developed an understanding of it myself. Finally, we need to recognize that healing takes time and it might take forever. I'm not over it to this day. There's absolutely no deadline when you must feel okay. It takes a different amount of time for everybody. Some days I feel like I am 100% completely fine and could not care less, and other days I am completely heartbroken. Up until recently, I have really felt no pain dealing with this issue. But a couple weeks ago, I went through a major episode of just like being shattered by the fact that I lost my mom. And it broke my heart in so many ways, and it was something I didn't think I was gonna get over for a couple days. And I didn't know how to deal with the feeling anymore because nobody had taught me differently. I never really felt the void and the major conflict of my feelings growing up and throughout middle school, high school, and now I'm in college. And I never really felt something like this, and all of a sudden it hit me like a bullet, and it was awful. And it's because I did not have these resources building up to help me and guide me. Losing my mom is something that will always be a part of me, and it's not something I can take away. It's not something I can get over, but it's something I've learned to live with and be optimistic about. But I know if simply sharing my story to at least one person makes them feel a little less alone, a little bit safer, and a little bit better about their situation, then that's all that matters, and it's completely worth it. But at the end of the day, civic engagement isn't just about changing laws and policies. It's about caring enough to notice what people are going through and not ignoring it, but actually doing something about it. And grief is something we can all do better together. Thank you.